Hello goddesses, it's Sarah Keats here with the Green Goddess. So I'm out in my garden and I'm just about to start doing some much needed weeding, and I thought, you know what, I have a lot of one particular weed in my garden and I thought it would be good to run and grab my camera and show you guys this particular weed that has overtaken my garden. However, it's actually an edible, tasty, useful weed that you might not have known had any uses. I guarantee that it has grown in your garden before and you probably just rip it out by the handfuls and think it's quite a nuisance. So what is this weed? Let me show you. So this is my garden. We've just had a rainy spell here, so the weeds have gone bonkers and it's needing a desperate weed. So these double rows here that we have, sorry, I should, because it almost looks like rows. Okay, so we have 2 rows here that are peas. And then on the edge of the garden, this whole area here, that is not garden, that is pure weeds, and it's all one weed, pretty much. Let's have a closer look. Do you recognize this weed? My goodness, do I ever have a lot of it? Let's pick one. Do you recognize this? This weed is called lamb's quarters. Often people will also call it white goosefoot, or pigweed. Pigweed is a common one, I think, that it gets called up here in our area. Why is it called pigweed? Well, it's because pigs love to eat it. It happens to be really good for them. It happens to be good for all livestock. So if you have chickens, goats, sheep, cattle, whatever, lamb's quarters are highly nutritious for them. But guess what? It's highly nutritious for you too. And so even though I definitely have way more lamb's quarters than I could ever wish for, and I will be pulling a lot of it out of the ground today, it really is a good plant to know. It's also another name for it up here in the north is called northern spinach. And that's because it can be used very easily as a substitute for spinach. So if you ever are making a salad at home and let's say you run out of romaine lettuce or spinach or something like that and you need to bulk up your salad quickly, just run to your garden and grab some lamb's quarters. So how do you know if it's lamb's quarters? Well, you'll often see and feel a texture on the leaves. So when you pick a leaf, let's find a good one here. I'm not sure if this will show up on the camera, but when you pick a leaf, let's see here. In the sun on the underside of the leaf, and even on the top of the leaf, I think sometimes too, yeah, there will be like almost like a silver powder on it. And if you brush it with your fingers, you're gonna feel a little, you can actually see it glimmer in the sunlight. You'll feel little round balls. It has a little bit of a texture to it, which I guess could be a turn off for some people when they ingest it. Can you see that glimmering in the sun? I'm not sure if you can on camera, but when you feel the leaf, you will definitely feel and see a crystal type of texture on your fingers. Sometimes you'll see that the leaves have purple dots on them too. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, although to me it kind of looks like maybe they're where a bug has bitten it. I don't know for sure though. But I dare you to come to your garden and grab a leaf and just make sure no buggies are on it and just give it a little munch. Typically the younger the plant is, and the closer to the top of the plant are the more tasty. You know, you would want to harvest from the top of the plant. You don't necessarily want the older leaves at the bottom. They can sometimes, they're not as palatable. But the ones that are at the top, yeah, you can pick all of this and put it in your salad. You can put it in your smoothies. You can feed them to your livestock. You can dry them and use them throughout the winter months. They're very popular not only in salads but in stir fries. Anywhere that you would use spinach, you can use these. So it could be a filling for lasagna or cannelloni or, you know, stir fries and things like that. And they really are actually quite tasty. In fact, I dare say I kind of prefer it to the taste of spinach. So give it a shot. One thing to note is that when you get a mature plant, give me 1 second, like this, I picked one earlier on that was quite big to show you. So when you get a mature plant like this, if you don't want this plant to spread all of its babies all over your garden, you're best to pick it before it goes to seed and then drops its seeds everywhere. So you can see we have the seeds just forming on the top of this plant. And guess what is really neat about it? So one of these lamb's quarters plants can produce up to 75,000 seeds. This is why I think I have it all over my garden, because I haven't had the heart to pull it maybe in previous years. And now it's everywhere. So just be aware of that. These seeds are edible as well. You could just munch on them. Lamb's quarters, the leaves, are high in vitamin A and C. But when you include the seeds in your diet with the leaves, they actually apparently have a full amino acid complex, which is really great for you. Now, when these seed heads mature, right now they're just little white, they have that silvery coating on them too. So they're not mature quite yet. But as they mature, the seeds are going to turn a reddish color, reddy purpley. And it's very interesting that if you were to harvest the seeds at that stage when they are ripe, mature, you could actually use the seeds very similarly as you would to quinoa. Lamb's quarter is actually related to quinoa, the superfood that you get in the health food store. And so you can actually cook the seeds of the lamb's quarter just like you would quinoa. The trick is that apparently, I've done this once before, but it was years ago and I don't really remember the full results, but when you use the seeds, if you want to use the seeds, they have like a chaff that you don't have to get rid of it, but I guess it's preferred. It tastes better if you just release the seed inside and you get rid of the chaff. So that can be a little bit challenging, but the chaff actually isn't bad for you either, and probably is a good source of fiber, as most things like that are. So the seeds can be used as well. I've read that people have used the seeds and ground them up and used them in baking. Maybe they've used them in muffins or breads. You can use the seeds and roast them and use them as a coffee substitute. So there's many, many uses for it. I have a feeling that you should give it a little Google and see all the uses that you could find for it. So that's our lamb's quarters, which I guarantee you have it in your garden, just as I do mine. Hopefully you don't have as much as I do. This is all lamb's quarters, and pretty much every row in my garden also has it. So I today am in my kitchen making a wild weed pesto, and I had basil on the deck that I just harvested, but it wasn't maybe quite enough basil, and I thought, you know what could I go outside and harvest? And sure enough, I was like, lamb's quarters. So I'm gonna go harvest a little bit of lamb's quarters, take it inside, add it to my pesto recipe, and freeze it for winter use. So that's what I'm going to do with my lamb's quarters today. Okay, goddesses, that's everything. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it with anyone you think might be interested. All right, happy gardening to you, and we'll see you again.